The entire family are completely mortified. They are hurt. They are, have a lot of questions, because they want to know what actually happened to their loved one.
We have to acknowledge that, number one, we do live in the South, and there's a deep history of racism and racist acts. And so people are obviously concerned about that.
Javion Magee, truck driver, found dead with a rope around his neck. Circumstances and facts we're still waiting for. And a very good morning to you. Welcome along to a cold and chilly day over here in London. My name is Hartley, and we have a special case for you today. We're going to bring to your attention a case over there in North Carolina. This story is about things that used to happen back in the 1930s and before that in the southern states. We can't definitely confirm as yet whether this is a hanging by someone, a criminal act. The investigation goes on. The family is not happy at the moment with the investigation. They're actually saying the sheriff seems to be dragging his feet and not investigating as he should. We're also still waiting for the full autopsy on his body. There has been a preliminary statement. His name is Javion Magee of North Carolina. We're very concerned about this particular case. I'm very concerned. This is why I'm bringing this one to your attention. We will follow the investigation and all the facts. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, also the like button. Help us to grow large on the YouTube network. Big shout out to the returning subscribers each and every time. Also the new ones, you are definitely welcome. Please share this video with your friends and family. As I said, my name is Hartley, based all the way here in London, UK. Extreme cold weather at the moment. The season has changed from summer, although we didn't have much of a summer, but we're definitely into the winter season now. Rope around the neck of North Carolina young man, 21 years of age, truck driver. He actually went to Walmart and bought a rope. This was seen on video. Somehow, he ended up sitting with his back against a tree and a rope hanging around his neck. This is the information so far. We're still waiting to get the full facts, but this is what we know so far.
Yes, this is Sheriff Curtis Brame here in Vance County. On Wednesday, September 11th, approximately 10:08 a.m., Vance County Sheriff Office received a call out to a rural part of the community, Vanco Mill Road, 285 Vanco Mill Road, where a deceased young man was sitting up against a tree, with his back up against a tree. He had a rope around his neck, and he had the top of the rope was up in the tree limb. There was not a noose. There was not a knot in the rope. We have information that we got that this young man had visited a local Walmart store here in Henderson, where he purchased an item that was possibly used around his neck. It's an open investigation at this time. We're following all the resources and avenues. We're utilizing. We found out he was a truck driver after we identified who he was. At first, we had no identity on him because he had no ID on him. And once we identified who he was, we found that the tractor trailer that he was driving was in an adjacent lot from where his body was located. We contacted his family in Aurora, Illinois. We had the Aurora Police Department go out and contact his family. And once that notification was made, we personally my investigators talked to the family and informed them of the information that, and the ongoing investigation, the death investigation of their son, their 21-year-old son, Mr. Magee.
And so at this point, you've seen some of these videos from family members that have out there sort of, questioning whether there could be foul play involved. What's your response to that?
I understand the loss. I feel gratitude, condolences, not gratitude, but condolences go out to the family. I never lost a child, to the mother and to their loved ones. I never walked in their shoes, but I asked them to slow down, to pump their brakes, to slow that train down that's left the station about the Vance County Sheriff Office, and definitely want to clear that the Henderson Police Department has nothing to do with this investigation whatsoever. This incident is clearly out in the county under the jurisdiction of the sheriff, which is myself and my deputies and investigators. We invited the North Carolina Highway the North Carolina SBI to assist us in the investigation regarding perceptions and get clarity and to be transparent that the Vance County Sheriff Department is not withholding anything and sharing information regarding to the decedent to the family.
Is there an autopsy yet?
Our autopsy is being performed today, yes.
Okay. And also, with regard to, the rope maybe possibly being bought at Walmart, would you be able to release that surveillance video?
Once we compile the information that we have, step by step, talking to the district attorney, the local district attorney, and the SBI. We don't want to release too much information too soon because this is an ongoing investigation. And we just ask everybody to be patient and so we can do a thorough investigation to get the proper information out there and ask people to stay off social media and slow down and report the facts. I understand there's over 1,000 hits on TikTok. The sheriff office not being transparent, not providing information to the family, and that is not true. There's been information put out there that there's a lynching in Vance County. There is not a lynching in Vance County. The young man was not dangling from a tree. He was not swinging from a tree. The rope was wrapped around his neck. It was not a noose. It was not a knot in the rope. So therefore, it was not a lynching here in Vance County.
Well, on the other side of things, do you believe at this point, or can we confidently, it was a suicide?
I cannot, without the report, the cause of death from the medical examiner. We're going down every avenue, every aspect, all the information, videos. We got in contact with the trucking company to get his GPS reading of all his whereabouts while he was here in Vance County in the Henderson area. So right now, we don't know exactly the cause of death of this young man. So no, I cannot say it was suicide at this time.
Okay, and also on the other side, you can't say foul. How is it being treated? Just as a death investigation?
It's been treated as a death investigation until we rule it out.
Okay. Are there any signs of any foul play?
No, sir, not at this time. No signs of foul play or implication of anyone else involved at this time.
What's your message to the family? I mean, obviously, regardless of what this was, I mean, they're thousands of miles away in Chicago. You get news that, your son is found, near a tree in the middle of North Carolina.
Be patient. Call us 24/7. The Vance County Sheriff Office, 252-738-2200. I'm Sheriff Curtis Brain. Call me or one of my investigators. And whether any time of day or night, we will come and we will meet you here at the Sheriff Office. I'm sorry that the family wasn't awarded that opportunity to view their son or their loved ones in not a natural circumstance, but in a normal circumstance where someone is deceased and taken to a local hospital. The family are awarded that opportunity to go to the hospital, to the emergency room, or either some other form of fashion so they can view the body and identify the person. This young man was not disfigured in any form or fashion. The picture ID that we took, the picture that we'd taken of him was possibly you could identify as being your child or identify someone who knew that could identify that picture.
So where is he now then?
His body is at the medical examiner's office, being autopsied.
For the autopsy?
Yes, sir.
And do we know when the results of that are going to come in?
Hopefully today we get a preliminary and give us a better understanding of what happened.
And you'll release that right away?
I will share that information with the family first, and then make a decision from the district attorney about sharing it with the press and with the public.
Is there anything else that you mentioned that you've seen out there on social media that you wanted to address or clear the air about?
I do. I just want people to stay out of their rumor mills, stick to the facts, allow us to do our job and be patient, and stop saying that the sheriff is not being transparent or that the sheriff is not doing what he's supposed to do. I'm very clear in my duties and my responsibilities and my obligations to the citizens of Vance County in the state of North Carolina.
And do you know who found him or what the circumstances of the call coming in were?
I have not released that information this time, sir.
Okay.
The call came in through 911, so therefore it's recorded and we'll be able to trace that back, sir.
So we can't say who came came upon him?
Not at this time. Just part of the ongoing investigation.
Gotcha. Do we know, the last people who were in contact with him or kind of anything leading up to this?
No, sir, we do not. Other than apparently being at Walmart distribution.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Walmart store.
Okay. And his truck, how far was he from where his truck was parked?
Oh, I said 40 yards from where his truck. His truck was in a fenced-in area, and he was on the outside of the fenced-in area where a tree was at.
And you said he was just sitting up against the tree?
Sit with his back up against the tree.
Okay. And the rope was just around his neck?
Yes, sir.
Was it tight? Was it?
I did not pay attention personally. I cannot comment on that.
He was found dead last week. The sheriff says he was leaning with his back up against a tree and a rope around his neck. Surveillance video released today shows him purchasing the rope at a nearby Walmart. Magee is from the Chicago area and was in Henderson, North Carolina, making a delivery to the Walmart distribution center there. The family has questioned the circumstance. We have to warn you, some of the details might be hard to hear this afternoon. Police say he was discovered not far from his truck in the city of Henderson Wednesday, leaning against a tree with a rope around his neck. His family suspects foul play, but police say it wasn't a lynching. Initially, the family says the Vance County Sheriff's Office told them Magee died by suicide. But today, the sheriff's written statement doesn't list his death as a suicide and says they're now investigating his death. Javion's family wants the FBI to step in.
I just feel something in my bones that's not right, and we're going to get to the bottom of it.
Candace Matthews is speaking for Magee's mother and says the family wants transparency. His death captured attention this week when his cousin posted a TikTok accusing law enforcement of dragging their feet in the investigation. Family has traveled to North Carolina to press investigators for more information because police are saying Magee purchased the rope at a Walmart before he died. The family spokesperson saying the timeline isn't adding up.
This family deserves answers, and you are going to do your job because something happened between that Walmart distribution center and that young man being hung from a tree. There's an issue. Now, Javion, also the parents want to know, has had no history of mental health, has no criminal history. Javion was a happy individual. In fact, he was happy to even have his CDL license that he just not that long got.
We have to acknowledge that, number one, we do live in the South, and there's a deep history of racism and racist acts. And so people are obviously concerned about that.
Some in Henderson on edge, gathering in front of the sheriff's office seeking answers on the death of Javion Magee. Just 21 years old, he just got his CDL license for a Chicago area trucking company. He was in Henderson making a drop-off at the Walmart distribution center and was found dead Wednesday morning off Vanco Mill Road, not far from his truck, sitting with his back to a tree with a rope around his neck. Kinds of problems.
A lot of this stuff does not pass the smell test, and that is a problem.
Now left mourning a loss from hundreds of miles away as they look for answers.
The entire family are completely mortified. They are hurt. They are, have a lot of questions, because they want to know what actually happened to their loved one.
They're also asking for the FBI to get involved to examine this case deeply. Okay, back to the case. Rope around the neck. The family of a man found dead with a rope around the neck demands answers. Sheriff says no foul play. The family of the black man found dead in North Carolina with a rope around his neck under a tree is demanding answers and transparency from the authorities. Full autopsy results, including determination on cause of death and toxicology, were still pending. Detectives found 21-year-old Javion Magee dead under a tree with a rope around his neck on September 11th in a place called Henderson, which is approximately 40 miles northeast of Raleigh. According to the statement from the sheriff's office, a 911 call had reported a body. Lawyers for Magee family addressed reporters on Wednesday to demand answers after they met earlier in the day with the sheriff and command staff.
All right. Good afternoon. Sorry for our tardiness. I know we planned to be at 12:30, but we're speaking to the investigators here at the Vance County Sheriff Office. Along with myself, Lee Merritt, Jason Keith, we stand here with the Magee family. Javion's father, Corey, his mother, his stepfather, Marcus. Mom, come with me. I want you to introduce yourself. Let me step in for one moment. For purposes of the media, we're going to do something quick. My name is Lee Merritt, Leemerritt. We're going to have Javion's mom and his dad step to the microphone, spell their name for us, and then just step back.
Spell the name?
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, I am Tierra Roberson Gates. My first name is spelled T-I-A-R-A. Last name R-O-B, as in boy, E-R, S as in Sam, O-N, Gates, G-A-T-E-S.
Is there, you can...
My name is Corey Magee. It's K-O-R-I-M-A-G-E-E. It's my son.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
thank you, sir. All right, shortly you're going to be hearing from both Mr. Daniels and Mr. Keith, who will talk to you about where we are concerning the investigation and what we're considering as far as litigation. The family has just gone through an exhausting process of reviewing all the evidence in Vance County's files, detailing the death of their son. So they're not in a position to answer questions now. So any of those questions are going to be bounced off of us. If you have some questions that you would like to pass through us, that's okay, and we'll see if they're able to answer. We've asked them to limit any statement to how this experience has impacted them, and reserve any legal questions or factual questions for their attorneys, okay? That being said, you'll hear next from
All right. So let me start by saying here, this is an absolute, put my glasses back on. This is an absolute tragedy, no matter how it panned out. You got a 21-year-old, bright, rising star, independent young black man from Chicago, Illinois, who has taken a path to be independent of his parents, to work as over-the-road trucker, and was doing a phenomenal job. He found himself here in Vance County, and like I said, the facts are still working its way out, but we do know that he was found hanging from a tree. Now, I know there have been some statements from the sheriff concerning what's considered a lynching or a hanging, but I'll show you the pictures that we saw. It's very clear that he was hanging. Not in the manner which you may saw in the 60s and the 20s and 30s, but it's nothing to take away from it. We are here for one reason only, and that sign says very clear, get justice for Javion and the Magee family. To ensure that we get transparency in this process, I know the sheriff, they have sent this case over to the State Bureau of Investigation, Attorney General, to do a further investigation in this particular matter. At this time, let me be very clear, the manner and the cause of death of Javion has not been determined at this time. The manner and cause of death has not been determined. So for any suggestion that it's a suicide, anybody stating that it was a suicide would be grossly premature, right, Lee?
That's correct.
Grossly premature. Well, we do know we have a young black man hanging from a tree in North Carolina. When I say hanging, not a traditional feet dangling, but nevertheless, a tree, a rope was tied to his neck, around his neck, and tied to a tree. So the next steps here, obviously, continued transparency from the sheriff's office. His family came over from Chicago and Texas. You can imagine the phone call they received about the loss of their son, Javion, which was something that no parent should receive. No parent should have to bury their child whatsoever, under any circumstances. But we are here to ensure that the investigation move forward. I don't care if it's in Vance County, Chicago, Illinois, Los Angeles, California, you would not call a family and tell them a suicide and the investigation is not complete. That's invoked Lee and myself, Jason, and other attorneys and civil rights activists to come here to make sure the investigations is carried out properly. Because anybody, it don't matter who you are,
If somebody receive a phone call as such troubling as this and say, hey, this is what we believe would happen, come get your loved one, that's a red flag. The parents they didn't have the opportunity to see the body or any pictures, so even identify Javion. Today was the first day they saw pictures to identify there was in fact Javion. So we need to make sure throughout this entire process, wherever the facts result may lead, we need to make sure it's a thorough investigation. One thing we can be very clear, no matter what the findings are or an investigation, nobody can say exactly what happened at that particular time. I wasn't there, the sheriff, or whoever else does the investigation was not there. We don't have a video of that, but we do know that, like I stated before, Javion had a rope tied around his neck, and that rope was tied to a tree. The tree is about, what, 8 feet off the ground, the limb about 8 feet off the ground, Lee?
Yes, sir.
So, with that being said, we're gonna have more questions. I'm gonna bring up Jason, and I think, anybody want to for the family speak? Okay. All right, we're gonna bring up Jason Keith. He's a local councilor in North Carolina.
First of all, look, I would like to say we would like to thank Lee Merritt, Harry Daniels, and this is Andrew Covington with me for coming. You might ask why are we here? Accountability, transparency. The community needs answers, and we're here to apply pressure. Lee has flown in from Texas, Harry's flown in from Georgia, I'm out of Greensboro, Covington's out of Raleigh. We're here for answers, and we're not leaving till we get them. The family deserves them. And we've seen the videos, we've seen the photographs, and this investigation is not complete. This investigation is too premature for any determination to be made what happened. What we want is we want answers. We want them now, we want them as soon as possible, and we want the system to work, because this family should not be in a position where they get a phone call about this young man coming into this county, working his job, and that he's found hanging from a tree. And the pictures, it's horrible. And this county deserves to explain, to spend the resources to let us know every detail of what happened. And that's what we're here for. And so I think Harry was right, I think Lee was right, I think Covington, everybody, we're here to apply pressure, and that's what we're gonna do. And we're gonna stay as long as it takes. And we're gonna talk to who we need to talk to, and we're gonna make as much noise as we need to get answers, to get the truth, and to make sure there's justice for Javion.
Right.
Sir, please.
Go ahead. Like the other council have said, we're here to get answers and justice, and we're not going to leave until we get that. There's no reason why why we don't already have these answers, and we're going to work as hard as we can until we get them.
Thank you. A moment ago, Lieutenant Bishop from the Vance County Sheriff's Department spoke with the family at length. The meeting lasted about 2 hours, where we began to get into the actual evidence that's currently in their possession. Some significant points were made. I'm open to any questions that you all might have about that. One thing that we found conclusively, and I'll back up a moment ago, as I mentioned, my name is Lee Merritt. I'm a civil rights attorney. The reason that the family has asked me to be a part of this case is because we're not investigating a personal injury case or a wrongful death case. We're investigating the lynching of a young man in 2024. It would be a misnomer to say that kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. We saw a public lynching in the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. We've seen public lynchings or the racialized killings of individuals, and it's something that needs to continue to be investigated and taken seriously. Unfortunately, in this country, we haven't dealt with our ghosts of racism and lynching, and so we often want to sweep it under the rug. The family has brought in these attorneys to ensure that does not happen. Concerning what we have found, the medical examiner's report determined that there was bruising along the neck and a broken neck bone, which means that he indeed, we're learning, we're working on gathering additional evidence to see what that actually means. I'll stop there and open it up to myself or the attorneys or any of the members of the family for questions.
So you just used the word lynching. Hate crime has also been thrown out there. What makes you think that's the case as opposed to other possibilities at this point?
Yeah, I don't think it's the case. To answer your question, I don't know that lynching or a hate crime is in fact the case. What we discovered was that Mr. Magee came into this county on September 11th, and he died by hanging from his neck. The sheriff concluded early on, and we believe prematurely, that it seemed to be a suicide to him. Well, that doesn't seem to be a suicide for me. I don't know too many 21-year-old gainfully employed, happy individuals that travel into North Carolina, buy a rope, and kill themselves. That would be an oddity. It's a possibility, but we would need more evidence before we jump to that conclusion. My job, the reason I was hired, was to investigate a lynching, to investigate the possibility of a hate crime, and to direct the family to wherever the evidence goes.
You know, we've heard a little bit from the sheriff about the timetable leading up to this, but as you mentioned, not entirely forthcoming. Can you kind of put together, at least from the family standpoint, the beforehand, you know, when was the last time he was in contact with them, and kind of the timetable that you've been able to figure out?
Sure thing, thank you.
Yeah, the sheriff should be releasing a detailed timeline today to the media. I don't know if they'll be having a press conference themselves, but they have indicated to us that a timeline will be released as best as they can gather, do their investigation. So as relates, speaking to the family, to my understanding, Javion was excited about going to Houston, Texas, and spending times with his cousins. So there's no indication whatsoever that he had any ulterior motives or ulterior thoughts as to whether, you know, he had any thoughts of self-demise. So there's nothing here, and this is, let me be very clear. This is why Mr. Magee, Ms. Roberson, and her husband are here. The family's here. Because there's no indication whatsoever the 21 years he was on earth that they brought him here and raised him to show any signs that he would commit suicide. That's why they're here. So to be very clear, there's nothing, no mental health, anything that capacity, no depression. And like Lee said, a 21-year-old is working, gainfully employed, gonna come to rural North Carolina and say, you know what, I'm gonna end it all here. Doesn't make sense. Any other questions?
From the family reviewing the Walmart surveillance video, I mean, that's the last video that we've seen of that. Just no one knows him better than his family. Haven't been able to figure out anything from his demeanor or thoughts on that.
The Walmart video, that's the last video that y'all have seen, right, as the media have seen this time. But it's other videos that the family have in fact received for his going to the Hampton Inn. The question is, what was he doing there in that location? Well, he went to the Hampton Inn. They had no room. So he went to where traditionally truck drivers is coming through here. Whatsoever, the 21 years he was on earth that they brought him here and raised him to show any signs that he would commit suicide. That's why they're here. So to be very clear, there's nothing, no mental health, anything that capacity, no depression. And like Lee said, a 21-year-old is working, gainfully employed, gonna come to rural North Carolina and say, you know what, I'm gonna end it all here. Doesn't make sense. Any other questions?
From the family reviewing the Walmart surveillance video, I mean, that's the last video that we've seen of that. Just no one knows him better than his family. Haven't been able to figure out anything from his demeanor or thoughts on that.
The Walmart video, that's the last video that y'all have seen, right, as the media have seen this time. But it's other videos that the family have in fact received for his going to the Hampton Inn. The question is, what was he doing there in that location? Well, he went to the Hampton Inn. They had no room. So he went to where traditionally truck drivers that's coming through here would go. And normally, if you would go, it doesn't make sense to go around with other truck drivers would be at to go kill yourself. If you're gonna kill yourself, you find a road down here that nobody's down, and you do it down there. I mean, it does. The facts and the things doesn't make sense as to a mentality, a mindset of a person who's wanting to kill themselves. Now, I understand about the buying a rope at Walmart as a truck driver. It's a lot of reasonable explanations for that. You know, you got a lot of times these trucks, and Dad is a seasoned truck driver. A lot of trucks have universal keys that other doors, other keys from other trucks can open if it's the same make and model. So if I'm sleeping in the middle of nowhere, you got to think about it. If you're sleeping in the middle of nowhere in a truck and somebody else can possibly get in your truck, you go around safety with numbers. So it's a lot of reasonable explanations that we believe why a rope was purchased. You know, I know with the optics, it looks like you get a rope, the next thing you found hanging from a tree. And if somebody can jump to that conclusion. But look, you know, I went to school in North Carolina Central School of Law. I think it's the best law school in the nation. It's definitely North Carolina. You don't jump. Now, I know you might not agree. You don't jump from buying a rope at Walmart and somebody hanging and say they committed suicide. We got things called evidence and facts that we must go through. And what was lacked here at the beginning of his family, the evidence, the facts have not been developed before you make a conclusion that he killed himself. Not on my watch, not on Lee's watch. And that's exactly why we're here to support this family.
I want to just further your question concerning the timeline. And it's important that the sheriff's office should release a timeline. There's evidence, there's witnesses, there's additional video showing up to almost hours before his death. And so there is a more clear timeline. I'm sorry, from the time that we suppose that his death took place. So, yes, sir.
Is there any physical evidence that he was physically beat? Is there any evidence that he was physically beat in his face or around his body area?
We are still in the investigation terms, gathering evidence concerning whether or not he was assaulted. In terms of his physical body, there's bruising about his body that could be consistent with him hanging from a tree and being exposed to the elements for an extended period of time. There's also an additional way to translate that evidence to say that he was bruised or hurt or injured by others.
Yeah, are you pursuing an independent autopsy?
At this time, no.
Depending on what's found in this investigation, are you guys planning on filing some kind of
Just want every legal option, maybe
that nature moving forward?
Yes, ma'am. Depending on the outcome of the investigation, we are speaking with the family and considering additional legal action.
Based on what the sheriff is saying, is he able to say more to the public, or he's pretty much limited what he can say to the public?
Well, I don't say necessarily think he's limited what he can say to the public. You got to be mindful that it is an ongoing investigation. You don't want certain things that put out there to disturb that investigation. So those are things that, you know, understand as law enforcement that you don't want to put certain things out just in case you have a lead for a possible suspect. So we definitely appreciate and understand that that aspect. But this is something that also that we have taken consideration. You know, as this thing continue to play out and more evidence come in, and if authorities, you know, maybe need additional help, that's something we may be seeking redress from the Department of Justice to trigger the Federal Bureau of Investigation to come in, because they are usually the lead people to investigate these type of matters, especially when you're talking about a hate crime, specifically in the federal laws. I don't know if North Carolina have any hate crime statutes or things that capacity, but I know the federal government, the federal codes, in fact, do, and that's something we may be invoking, considering what the facts and the evidence may lead us.
Concerning the sheriff's statements to the public, I think that the sheriff has been rather cavalier about the evidence that he chose to release, and he's released it in a very piecemeal manner that has actually caused this confusion. I find it distracting that he seems to be more focused on what's being said on TikTok than his responsibility here as the sheriff to get to the bottom of the what happened and then get that information quickly to the family, even before he gets them to the media. I would advise him not to do that, or to change his practice concerning that.
Do y'all have privilege of the information that the public does not?
Yes.
Any other questions? Look, you try to hold a question to the media. I know you may have a lot of people have questions, but any media have different questions.
When was the last time that the family spoke to Javion before he made his way to San Jose?
When the last time you talked to him?
I talked to him maybe a couple of days before this happened.
According to Dad, a couple of days before it happened. Any other questions?
So the sheriff or the representative for the family said that in the preliminary information that they had gotten regarding the autopsy, that there was nothing found under the fingernails, and that
I'm sorry. Who said that?
The family representative, Javion Magee.
Okay.
and she said that there was nothing found under the fingernails, and that was more cause for suspected foul play. Why is that? And if that's the case, why aren't you guys seeking your own separate autopsy?
Well, I think the question is, why is there any, you say independent wounds or anything, defensive wounds? I think that's what you're referring to. It's my understanding from the investigators and from the preliminary findings, there was nothing to that capacity. Just because it have not been done this time don't mean it's not ruled out. We still, I think the family now is in possession of Javion's body, and we're going to explore every angle, position to determine what happened. And I think from the initial statements we made, it might have been premature, but here we are the representatives of the family, and anything that happens moving forward, we want to speak on behalf of the family.
And I'm sorry, at this time, we have not performed an independent autopsy as the body has been in the possession of the medical examiner. We are in the process of recovering the body, and the family does plan to move forward with an independent autopsy at that time. What we have been told is what you've heard from the sheriff, that there were no defensive wounds on the body. Thank you.
We do know that Javion was traveling and had stopped at that Walmart. Do we know where his final destination was or where he was planning on going?
Well, according to the timeline, he was going to the Hampton Inn here in, I don't know where it's exactly located at, but that Hampton Inn is fairly close to the Walmart Supercenter here. I think about a half a mile. After that, that was his intentions. He went there. He got out of his truck. He walked, it's on camera. He walked in with his bag, his belongings, and he had a brief conversation with the clerk. And to my understanding, upon investigation by the Vance County Sheriff's Office, that the clerk told him that there was no vacancies, no availability. So those are things that that we believe that he had intentions to stay there, but for the vacancies, he ended up going to, and it's not a truck stop. Let me be very clear. It's a commonly known area, I guess, where truckers go. I think, yeah. So I think the truck stop thing is not really a truck stop. So he went over there, and that's a normal practice for people that's hauling loads through here that would stop over there. So at some point, he obviously knew that that is a location. And usually truckers, and Dad can tell you this, truckers feel safer in numbers. You know, it doesn't make sense for a person who, you know, who had this ideology or mindset to kill themselves to come around with other people with safety in numbers. So, I mean, in that case, the person you need to be safe from is yourself. Why would you go around other people?
Based on the other surveillance videos that you guys have seen, are there other people, or is there another person that people should be looking for, that investigators are looking for, any cell phone records, any indication that he has any other ties maybe, or there was another person involved?
It's other people that had an opportunity to speak to Javion as such, so they have speak to those people concerning those leads. However, as relates to other surveillance videos, dealing with any suspects, not at this time, not that we have been shown, it doesn't mean it won't develop. Like I told you guys before, you go to Walmart or whatever the case may be, and you go there, you purchase a rope, and you end up being hanging from a tree. You know, it's a lot of questions that's in between. Anything that transpired in between, you know, it concerns that things to be considered. But at the end of the day, our main focus here, you know, and look, don't take anything away from this, find out what happened to Javion. This family is not here to point the fingers at the sheriff's office. They want to find out what happened. Wherever that evidence may lead, you know, then that's something they can deal with. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we are here, you are here, to ensure transparency move forward. Because anybody, family, black, white, it doesn't matter race, religion, you will want a thorough investigation to take place for your loved one. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to know. You want to know what happened, because that's a sign. That's a start of healing. You know, you have missing persons. You know, people never found for years. Family can't truly heal until they find out. I don't care what it is. So we need to know this family's here, poised, standing here. They have brought us on, and like I said, we're not here to throw darts at anybody, but we are going to throw darts for a lack of transparency and a quick statement to say this is suicide.
Do we know what his, had this not happened, what the rest of his route was supposed to look like after he was done in Henderson, or when he was supposed to get back to Chicago, if all had gone normal?
We don't necessarily have that information. I know he dropped a load here at the Walmart Distribution Center. Like I told you before, he was anticipating to come to Texas to spend time with his cousins. So for a further route, we don't know particularly. That's something that we'll learn moving forward. At the time, his trailer his tractor did not have a trailer, correct? So there was no trailer on the tractor. So whatever load that was already dropped. So we don't know the exact next route. So any other questions?
Do we know if there were any other truckers parked in that area that night?
Yes. Yes, I believe there's other truckers parked in that area. From my understanding, is that you understand? From my understanding, other truckers.
Any idea how many?
Not at this time.
6 or dozen?
We don't know. We don't know. All right, one more question.
Would the family like to just share about him as a person in general? I mean, obviously, everybody's really invested in his story.
I think normally, but at this time, I think this family, considering what they just heard from the law enforcement, and I think that give it time later on, they would be able to speak out personally themselves about Javion. But just know this, it's an ongoing investigation, no manner of cause of death, and we seek a transparency of truth. So with that being said, Lee.
Just one moment. And the family did want to make one statement before they took off. So each member of the family is going to step here. They're going to make a brief statement. They're not going to take any questions. Thank you. Please come on. All together, please. Shoulder to shoulder. There you go. I'll be behind you.
I just ask that you guys keep us in prayer.
I do want to tell. I want to thank you guys for your support. Everybody, the world, whoever's seeing, I appreciate. Everybody just swiftly supported, and that helped us, to keep us up in our spirits. Nobody out here wanted to hear this kind of news. Nobody, white, black, any nationality, want to hear this kind of news in 2024. Figured we was done with this. We're not, like you said, we're not pointing any fingers because it's still under investigation. But I do want to let you know what kind of person Javion was. He was very competitive, and when he started driving trucks, I didn't force him to drive trucks. He came to me. He saw my struggle with the trucking industry and having a company, and how now everything is pretty much down, and he saw me go up and he saw me come down. And then I guess he took it upon himself to step up, because I said, we as black people, we don't have nobody we can put other people on to businesses. Like most companies, these big companies, it's generations that form these companies, but they start as one or maybe two people, and they grow. And so I didn't have nobody to push that on. And he was one of the first people that said, hey, Dad, I'm about to go drive, And I'm like, wow, well, what make you want to do that? He said, I just want to do it. I want to put in my work. And that's just how he was. He wanted everybody to be together. That was his heart. Always, everybody just to come together. And so if this moment can spark anything, if I can tap into him, I would say he wants this country to come together. Not all this dividing stuff. We all need to come together, because if it wasn't no divide, this wouldn't have happened. And I feel like, honestly, if he wasn't